Let me tell you about the wildest, most upside-down battle I've ever lived through. One where the rules became weapons and justice came limping down the sidewalk, disguised as an old guy with a busted spine and a stubborn streak. If you ever thought those HOA horror stories online were exaggerated, buckle up because this ride starts with a $10,000 fine and ends with a federal raid, handcuffs, and a little bit of revenge with Martha's name written all over it. You want a hook? Try this. The president of my neighborhood HOA once looked me dead in the eye and said, "Maybe you should have thought twice before buying here, old man. This isn't a nursing home." Nice, right? She strutted away on her ridiculous heels, perfume trailing behind, totally confident she'd just crushed another problem. Thing is, she had no idea the so-called problem she was about to step on was me. I wasn't just a guy in a wheelchair. Turns out I was her landlord. I can hear you now. Wait, what? Trust me, nobody knew. For years, I just rolled along, invisible, taking notes, helping a neighbor here and there, keeping my head down. But this time, when the HOA came for me, it was personal. That's where it all started. I didn't ask for any of this. 3 years back, after 30 years working Navy intelligence, I'd figured the toughest days were behind me. I came to Pinehurst Heights thinking I'd coast through retirement. My wife, Martha, God, I still remember her hands in that hospital room, the scent of her jasmine perfume fading as she told me, "Promise you'll help people who can't help themselves, Ezra." After she died, I meant to keep that promise. Didn't think it'd be a war. Didn't think I'd become a landlord either. But then my uncle passed and left me enough to buy a few houses, just to keep them out of the hands of those corporate sharks circling every quiet neighborhood. Keep the rents fair, Martha used to say. Watch over the teachers, the nurses, the old folks. So I started picking up properties one by one. Not for the money. I just hated watching my neighbors get pushed out. People looked at me and saw a broke veteran with a beat-up Honda Civic. If they'd checked, they'd have noticed a different name on half the deeds. Thornfield Properties, LLC. Yeah, that's me. But back to that fine. The board said my wheelchair ramp, doctor's orders, city permit, completely above board, was unsightly. $10,000 fine. Just like that. At the meeting, neighbors shifted in their folding chairs, pretending not to see me. Board president, Vivian Blackwood, picture every HOA Karamim rolled into one, smirked and told me this isn't a nursing home. 4 votes to 1. Rosa, the only one who stood up for me, gave me that look, the "I'm so sorry, I wish I could do more" look. So I wheeled out in silence. Didn't rage. Didn't break down. That's not how I operate. I went home, closed my door, and started making calls. "Marcus," I said, voice steady as it ever was when briefing command. "It's time. Pull every Thornfield file. All 423 properties." See, Vivian didn't just find me. She declared war. But I wasn't the only soldier. Rosa, the paralegal, found me at the grocery store the next day. "They're breaking their own bylaws," she whispered, hiding in the cereal aisle. She was right. Selective enforcement, it's illegal. You can't bust one person for something you let your friend slide on. But nobody else knew the law, and Vivian counted on that. From that day, my mailbox filled with violation letters like artillery shells. Mailbox too high, $250. Trash cans visible, $500. Bird feeders, $350. You get the idea. Her nephew, Brad, barely old enough to shave, started photographing my house every morning like he was with TMZ. They even killed Martha's roses, accidentally dousing them with chemicals. Utility cut my cable. Sprinkler malfunction flooded my driveway. Every day, something else. If you've ever felt your blood pressure rise just checking the mail, you know what I mean. But the more they pushed, the calmer I got. Let them dig. I documented everything. Vivian's fence? 6 inches over the property line. The treasurer's deck? No permits. Secretary's home business? Direct violation. While Brad took photos of my bird feeders, I snapped pictures right back. Rosa caught on. "You're building a case, aren't you?" I just smiled. State law's clear. Target one. You have to target all. Still, Vivian pushed harder. Suddenly, her fines hit anyone who even looked my way. Rose's son got a $2,000 fine for a basketball hoop, one that had been there 3 years with approval. That's when the neighborhood started whispering. Then came the twist. Rosa, always digging, pulled city records. Turns out, Vivian's husband, Mr. City Councilman, approved $847,000 in no-bid contracts to companies owned by her cousins, all paid for by the HOA. Money laundering, right under everyone's noses. I've been tracing it for months. Martha always told me, follow the money. So I did. And just as Vivian ramped up her campaign, I flipped the switch. Marcus, my lawyer, filed a federal civil rights complaint. Retaliation, racketeering, the whole 9 yards. The board had no idea what was coming. I remember the day Vivian brought the foreclosure notice herself, posing for pictures like she'd just bagged a trophy deer. Pay up or get out, she said. I nodded, thanked her, then filed her photo away with the others. That night, local news got the scoop, except Vivian's version. Disabled veteran refuses to follow community rules, the headline screamed. They plaster my ramp on TV, made me out as a stubborn troublemaker. I watched with coffee in hand, bitter as the brew itself. That public shaming only fueled her. Now, accidents weren't enough. Tree crews dropped branches on my Honda. Pest control sprayed my air vents with chemicals. Street cleaners flooded my porch. Security patrols parked outside my window, lights flashing every 30 minutes. Psychological warfare, except I'd seen better. She played games, I played chess. Behind the scenes, the feds were already moving. Rosa, her hand shaking, brought me the final piece, a digital spreadsheet Vivian kept, ranking every home by how much she could squeeze from them. Priority target, disabled, widowed, isolated, extract $50,000 plus using medical leverage. I still see my name there. Then, finally the dam broke. Mrs. Morgan, 84 and barely scraping by, got a $5,000 fine for a garden gnome. She'd had that gnome for 15 years, and it never hurt a soul. After the pest control killed her jasmine, she broke down sobbing in the driveway, clutching that fine. That was it. The neighbors rallied. 12 families packed into Rosa's living room, telling stories about sabotage, threats, vandalism, some worse than mine. The next morning, Marcus filed the federal complaint. We presented evidence of retaliation, fraud, organized harassment, money laundering. Not just a lawsuit, a racketeering case with federal agents already watching. That evening, as Vivian gathered her loyalists for the big foreclosure vote, the real show began. Rosa stood up first. Board members have the same violations you're fining us for. And your husband funneled $847,000 to family companies. The crowd erupted. Vivian tried to shut her down, but then I rolled up to the mic, my hands steady. You thought you were bankrupting a broke veteran, I said. Actually, you've been collecting rent from me for 3 years. I own nearly half this neighborhood, 423 homes. I'm also the one who tipped off the feds. She went white as a ghost. Could have heard a pin drop. Before she could run, a man in a Navy suit flashed his badge. Vivian Blackwood, you're under arrest for racketeering, conspiracy, and domestic terrorism. Dare tried to bolt. FBI at every exit. By sunset, the whole board was in cuffs, the HOA office surrounded by black SUVs. That's what justice sounds like, by the way. The click of handcuffs, the hum of federal generators, neighbors cheering as the bullies get perp-walked on live TV. I wish I could say that was the end. But even locked up, the Blackwoods weren't done. From jail, Vivian tried to call in favors. Arsonists torched the federal command post. Mrs. Morgan's house bombed at dawn. Tom's truck blown up. My own house. Someone tried nerve gas through my vents. But every escalation gave the feds more ammo. Every threat, every attack was recorded on cameras I'd hidden months before. Every criminal connection traced, indicted, charged. Federal court was a fortress. Helicopters, barricades, more press than a presidential election. When the jury heard Derek ordering a chemical attack on tape, it was over. They didn't just convict, they hammered. Life without parole for Vivian and Derek. Death sentences for the hired killers. The rest? Broke, blacklisted, never to see a nickel from their crimes. The best part? Every penny they stole came back. Restitution paid out to every family. The Martha Thorne Justice Foundation, named for the only woman who ever kept me honest, funded legal aid for communities all over the country. Pinehurst Heights became a pilot for real, transparent neighborhood management. Kids played outside again, gardens bloomed, laughter replaced paranoia. You want a moral? Here's mine. Quiet people see everything. Sometimes the best way to fight back isn't a shout, but to watch, wait, document, and strike when the time is right. Sometimes, to win, you have to let the bullies think they're winning until their crimes bury them. So, what would you do if someone in power tried to run you out of your own home? Where's the line between standing your ground and going nuclear? Ever had a neighbor or an HOA try to mess with you like this? I'd love to hear it because the truth is, these stories aren't as rare as you'd think. Share your war stories. Let's talk about justice. Sometimes karma just needs a little push, and well, a little federal firepower doesn't hurt either.